mind is very powerful. And I want to read it. And you could put that in there because I'm only going to read now today's reading, The Obstacles to Peace with Ken Wapnick. Because I'm clearly seeing now the insidious way that the ego lives on just by realizing that your conscious thought doesn't always know how much you don't want peace. Your unconscious thought does know. Your conscious thought doesn't know that because we're all here. So to we show up to be a beacon of light. But there are training wheels in every which way climbing this ladder, and the training wheels that we use are really the Course in Miracles or any teaching really, because it's really about embracing who we really are and clinging to that part of who we are, because that's the only part that's real, and you can only really have it now. You can't have it in another space and time because all of that are conceptual. So here Ken is saying, as peace extends from deep inside yourself to embrace all the sonship and give it rest, it will encounter many obstacles. Some of them you will try to impose. Others will seem to arise from elsewhere, from your brothers and from various aspects of the world outside. So when I bring this thought into me, there's nothing outside, but the habit of looking outside needs vigilance because the mind automatically goes outside. But to think that we are the ego mind is to really to sadden ourselves, because then we're with hate. And I'm seeing now that there's obstacles in the mind that need to come up by allowing it and welcoming it. The idea that I could, feel that it is happening by itself. I see that. It's happening from essence. But there's still, we are the infinite. I am the infinite. I have the power at this point to choose which voice do I want. Do I want the voice of insanity? And as you can see, if you imagine what's going on the television about the insanity and the hate, that's what's driving this world. So do I want to join in? Like, do I want to protest because I don't like what's going on? Well, that part of me is still alive, but I don't want to enliven it so much. But I will sit and rest and accept and trust that spirit in me can heal that part, because there's an obsession with finding out what's going on. And that is not coming from the true self. That is just another distraction. So he's saying, when I go on and look at the politics, at this point, it seems like it's just figures on a screen, right? Because that's what I am. And that's what McCallie is, and Lynn. And we're all just these figures on the screen of the infinite. And we're meaningless. And that is so hard for an ego to realize, because that specialness is an absolute addiction, at least for me, My kids were with me all weekend. I had like 12 of them here, and it was wonderful. But I stayed quiet most of the time because that's enjoyable. When you're quiet, you can really see what's going on. And there's really nothing going on except these concepts talking to each other. Because the image isn't a person. The image is just that, an image, the same as a Netflix movie or DVD or whatever. But Ken has always brought up that there are subconscious hatred and things that we cannot see until we're ready. And since time is an illusion, it really does not matter when I am ready. And when I fall back, it's just my temptations to want this to be real. And why would I want this to be real? Fear, the fear of love. And that's just something that is across the board, because this all-encompassing love has absolutely no opinion. There's no opinion at all. What is it about, they often say opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. And I used to laugh at that. But that is the truth, because all I'm doing is hurting a mind that was at this moment chosen for a teaching that's really what I would say is the highest teaching, that we're really not here. And when I look at that and I realize there's still a perpetual addiction to this ridiculous conversation that the mind is having with itself, right? But I thought Sharon was somebody that really mattered. And she does, and she doesn't. She does in the respect that she communicates with all sisters and brothers, and with the trees and with the dogs and and the sisters and brothers are the trees. They're every part of us. Every part of us is sacred when we live through the sacred mind. And that is like the way I see this process is complete training wheels. Like I remember when my father ended up teaching me to ride a bike. So I had training wheels, and then he let me go and take off the training wheels. And I was so scared. And it took quite a while. Well, in transcending this mind, which is just thought, which if we, the thoughts aren't the problem. It's the love of the thoughts. It's the addiction to those thoughts. It's the I am right and my opinion matters and I'm not stupid. I'm really smart because I care about everyone. First of all, that's just not true, because in the ego, you can't care about everyone. You just can't. We have been conditioned. And so my mind's conditioned to care about people that are not getting what they deserve. For me, it was always the most vulnerable people that deserve things. And on a realistic, on this level is two. And that's important to me to speak from levels, because level one is a lot of times spoken. And a lot of times that's harder to get to a place of saying, I still have all these beliefs. So we are asked to do that with Holy Spirit. But Sandy came into our group last week and taught another inquiry where we can really go a little bit deeper. So I intend to come tomorrow. And I felt prompted to get her book on Kindle because it's beautiful. I've been reading it. I sometimes, when I'm tired of reading one thing, I open another. And anything I open, I say a prayer now, because that is the most important part of this. No one knows a thing. And I have to remember that. How could I know anything or have an opinion if I'm not who I thought I was? Everything else, that script that was written for the ego, it's kind of like a script of armor that we defend ourselves from speaking truth because of the fear. And I fear love, but not the love of humans. That's easy. But the all-encompassing love. Do I know why I do? Well, I would imagine the whole sonship does. So he's saying, Ken, these are obstacles are purposive because designed by the ego to prevent the mind from recognizing its power to choose peace over the conflict that is the ego's source, sustaining its existence. An essential part of the ego's strategy of mindlessness is to have these blocks seem to arise from the bodies of the world, anywhere but the mind itself. So an outer picture is really coming from the inward condition of a projector that our dreamer is projecting on. And every time I project anything, it's a temper tantrum. And how do I not project? I mean, I'm not doing it, the person. Well, it's become simpler for me now to realize that if I don't know anything, there's no projection. Then I'm just in the love soup is what it is. It's like I remember years ago, Kate Greaves said, this is a love soup. And she's right. This essence is a movement of every part of this sonship. And yet we're really inside of it. The personhood is always something that is like a drug for the ego, for my ego anyway. I want to get my way here. I want it to be right. I want to have a special world. I want to have the best world. God knows now that we have all of this administration is hurting people, blah, blah, blah. And it is, by the way, in the screen. But that would be at level 2. At level 2, we are really just looking at phenomena. And, everybody's innocent. They got parts, and the president right now, he's playing a very difficult part because he's hateful. So where have I been hateful? Lots of times. That hate is, if it's in one, it's in all. So, you know, the thing about the ego is it gives us like a little bit of a bite of an apple, like in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's just take that bite and you'll feel better because the ego gets excited when you hate. It's a different energy, but it doesn't belong to God. That energy belongs to just a dream figure, a dream figure that's being projected from my mind and believing that to be God is not as good as to be Sharon, which is kind of insane. So you can see the insanity that exists in my mind sometimes. So he's saying the ego just wants us to be mindless. That's it. It wants to keep this character distracted. Why? Because it doesn't want the now. You know, you can only be in love and light and, you know, and whole in the moment. You can't, if you're walking around and you're thinking, and that doesn't matter the thoughts, but if the I am presence is grabbing it as that's me, then I lose everything. I'm no longer, I'm just that little girl that used to get lost a lot, right? I was always getting lost. You know, I don't know, many different reasons, but the lost on the boardwalk when I was 3 or 4. But that's because unconsciously at the very bottom, I want the peace of God. I want to be free. I wanted love. Love is the only thing that guarantees you peace, but it's the encompassing love. It's not the special love. And often when I did fall in love, especially with my husband, I felt like I was higher than high. However, I was seeing him as a person, but at the same time, he was the kindest and gentle man. And that's really, you know, happens sometimes just by grace. Grace is doing it all. So, you know, we're going to North Carolina this week to visit my sister-in-law. They're having a celebration for life for her son, who had a massive heart attack 2 weeks ago and died. Now she has a book called Jesus Calling. So she's very tied to the love. Because if you even focus on this seeming character without the story of the other beings that made up, you know, about how, you know, Jesus should be crucified. If you concentrate on the love, like the Jesus Calling book, she gave it to my husband, and I was looking at it. There's nothing you can do but love, and when you're in love, and this is how I see my sister-in-law. Of course, I'm projecting her from my mind, but she's also projecting me, and she's always graceful. Like she said to me, "Everybody has to die, and it was his time." Now that's rational thinking. However, the irrational is what the mind would say. What do you mean it was this time? God hates him. He took him from this what? Wonderful world? This is not a wonderful world. This is a very sick world. It's divided more than ever. It seems like the evidence that's out there, seemingly, and that's all coming from within all of us, is trying to say, help me, Mother Nature, save me from this hatred of every single mirror that I see. Because the mirror is always me. So, you know, he's talking basically, I want to have other people join in. So I think there's this book, Healing the Unhealed Mind, we could look at, Lynn, or if you want me to continue that, that's up to you.
Sure, you put it up, Healing the Unhealed Mind?
Wait, I'm having a hard time hearing today. Wait a minute.
Okay, do you want me to put it up on the screen?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like, you know, Ken's book on all the obstacles to peace is probably profound for everyone in our group because, oh, he's telling me to keep going, Robert. So I'm going to keep going.
But you
Yeah,
know what?
because
Bruce and I read that book, that entire book. It took us like 3 years. And
this is his workbook. This is his journey through the text.
oh no, it was The
It was the one,
Obstacles to Peace.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
what is it called? The book that we read.
yeah.
Uh,
I know what it is. It's just like it looks like one of the journeys, but it's not. It's just one book on the obstacles because This is what kind of teacher he was. He
Right. It's
knows
called The
that's
Journey Home. The book is called The Journey Home.
right.
The Obstacles to Peace. So do you want to what are you looking at?
This is like, you know how he made up these books? Like
Is
this
it
one is
Forgiveness in Jesus you're looking at, or which one?
Journey Through the Text.
Oh, I don't have that one.
Yeah, so I'll read it because it's a little simpler than the others, But the thing that I'm looking at now is my classroom is why do I stay away from the temptation of always believing that I'm this character and that I want this world to. Now I don't always do it, and it didn't come up at all this weekend. And my oldest boy is very much entrenched in politics, but I we all discussed what we want, and we don't want to talk about anything that's really not peaceful. Of course, my grandson made it very obvious that he was going to show us what not peaceful is because he's only 3 and he's never slept away without crib kind of thing, and he couldn't stand. They brought him a bed that is like you blow up, and he panicked and he couldn't stop crying because he also had croup. So no matter how much peace, but what did I do during that time? I opened one of these books and I sat with it because I knew that I couldn't fix him. He had to work it through. He's only 3, but he ended up, this is so hysterical. He only wanted to sleep, I'm sure, because he was crying like the first couple of days about, just about being angry. He was hitting, it's only 3, but he ended up wanting to go in my dog's crate because it
Oh,
has bars. So finally, I said to my son Andrew, "Why don't we just put him in there?" And they did, and he fell right asleep for 3 hours. And you can just see how strange this is for us. He's 3, and he's feeling not safe here. Why? Well, those bars are like the womb. How long does it take for us to really get out of God's womb? We're never out of God's womb, but our mother's womb, because it's a very, very different energy here. So it was kind of interesting to watch a 3-year-old explain to us how awful this world is. We are put in situations to help us, but as children, that's where we're making up all our ideas, really. I think they say birth to 7. I'm not sure if that's true, nor do I think it matters, but the less that I evaluate, the better I am. So anyway, he's saying, yet peace will gently cover them, extending past completely unencumbered. The peace he lay deep within you and your brother will quietly extend to every aspect of your life, surrounding you and your brother with glowing happiness and the calm awareness of the complete protection. And you will carry its message of love and safety and freedom to everyone who draws nigh unto your temple, where healing waits for him. Yet the peace that already lies deeply within must first expand and flow across the obstacles you placed before it. So he's saying he's basically saying the veil of forgetfulness, is between. The whole idea here is the remembering. What is enlightenment? It's just a remembering of who we are. Now, if you really just shut your eyes, that's what you are, right? I mean, the Tao says it. It seems like darkness, but the dark and light are how this shows up. And our life in heaven has never stopped. So what we're doing here is basically living a movie out, and a movie that's been over. So most of the time, if we observe the movie, which is what I did this weekend a lot, I sat at the witness level and just said, okay, this was beautiful, without a conversation of the mind, the narrator explaining to me that Noah's crying and we have to get dinner together and my stomach hurts and all the stuff that the ego feeds the mind, and believing that's me, right? That's what happens. So, and when I look at like what's going on in the world, when I really look at, like, let's say an example of Donald Trump, he got a very bad part. Because remember, he's an actor for us. So what he's doing now is he's showing us basically the unkindness that exists in us, that we are very angry and hateful people, and we should all be punished, right? We should all go into a concentration camp. But well, little does he know that then who knows what he knows? Because I don't know what anyone knows because it's always me thinking. So, but I'm just saying that's where empathy comes from. Not that he's doing something good. I can't say that this president has goodness in his heart, not even a little, but he does have the Christ. He just appears to be someone playing a part to show us duality, to show us the love and gentleness that we have had years before that in an administration, and how much easier that is on us because we are inclusively one. And if one brother doesn't get something, it does affect the energy. So, what we want to pray for is not only our own abundance, but everyone's. And it's not about food, it's about beingness, that you can feel their beingness, see someone on the street that's homeless, and just realize that those people are you. And so, if they're you, well, to take their pain, you might want to offer them some money or something to eat. But the most powerful thing you can do is to offer them grace and shut your eyes and be with them. Because you're not with anybody when you're here, not informed. So when we change teachers and look through Jesus's eyes, which is vision, we bring these ego obstacles to his peace and watch them disappear. Their apparent size and significance are irrelevant, for love sees them all the same. Shadowy fragments of guilt that has already dissolved into nothingness. And that just shows you that the person, this image that I am, through the day dissolves. How could it not? I think I spoke about this last week. I don't remember when, but if you put your finger like right at your nose and go back, you can feel the space. It's just like there's nothing there. But the projector is managed so perfectly. And why is it managed perfectly? It's part of the dream, the story. It's always about that treasure hunt when the treasure is in us. It's in me, that light. So, he's saying here, what power does night have over the dawning sun? In this holy instant of light, the peace-filled mind can only extend through the sonship. That's what I was saying. Go inside, calling all to share its perfect peace. Since minds are joined, we are healed as one. Now, when I say we're healed, well, the dream figure appears to be healed. It's interesting. I came upon a teaching about the fact it was Christian Murphy. I think it was Christian Murphy's teaching saying that awakening is ridiculous because we're basically, it's not a big deal is what he's saying. There's a huge difference between awakening and liberation. And I don't know who gets liberated, nor do I care anymore. But wakefulness does give you peace, that's for sure. So if I want to be the best figure out there, then I'm in the ego because there's nobody out there. This is all happening inside of our mind, right? So it's kind of like, why would I could have peace instead of this. Now there's a belief and fear of this obstacle of, not seeing how much I want to get rid of it, right? Because it's there. It's there if I'm, you know, first off, but to be quite honest, I can't sit in the silence all day. That's just not, I haven't come to that place as of yet. As of yet. Because it's not because I don't like the silence, it's because there's fear. And it doesn't mean that the fear seems like fear in the body. It's fear by being distracted, by maybe taking a lot of snacks and keep stuffing my face so I don't have to be here right now. So, forgiveness just shines. It's just one of the things. Our responsibility is to make rooms in our mind for the Holy Spirit and His peace. His is to extend throughout the sonship. There is in truth only one holy relationship with the Holy Spirit. And from that one, all relationships are made holy. So that's bringing, it could be Jesus, the voice for God. It could be Holy Spirit. It's just one power. That's all there is. There's no more than one power. And that one power is called so many different things that it can confuse you. But it's as simple as saying it's encompassing love, right? So he's saying here, uh, likewise, there's only one special relationship with the ego from which all relationships are made special, which is what it means not to be gracious to our brothers. Well, he's not special. He's not my child, and he just pissed me off. And this is the whole point in fearing the truth, because you can only be in the truth now. There's nothing boring about the truth. It's the devotion to the ego that's boring, because really, it there's nothing in the ego that's happening except the belief that we are this person. Anyway, likewise, there's only one special relationship with the ego from which all relationships are made special, which is what it means not to be gracious to our brothers. To forgive one is to forgive all. Condemning one condemns all, for this is an all or none course. Our fear of peace stems from this all inclusiveness, for the choice for peace is ultimately the choice against our separated self. The heart of the first obstacle then is rejecting peace instead of welcoming it. So that's the better choice. To welcome the peace is to say to yourself, well, I don't want anything but what's mine. What do I care about a character that doesn't exist? That's the whole thing. So it says here, the first obstacle that peace must flow across is your desire to get rid of it. Now, subconsciously, I've done this like throughout the process, without realizing it too, by the way. For whatever reason, there's a belief that that'll keep me safe because it's familiar. It's all so familiar to fall back into a story that's completely meaningless. Yeah, they're just like, they're toys that we play with until we realize that I don't know how long I'm going to be in this, you know, illusion. Why not at this point commit to only wanting the truth? I mean, it is the truth, and the character, I put a lot of stuff in my mind on this character because she appeared to be nice, but the hidden rage was there. Trust me, it's still there. I feel it sometimes. But the point is that rage will unwind with the desire, the true desire, not the desire for everything that's not going to sustain me. Certainly food doesn't sustain any of us, but there's like a desire because it's pleasure. And this is all about the witch that's in the mind, you know, and the ego's wicked. I mean, there is like, I saw like my kids, my son and his wife bickering, and the bickering was so insane, but I got to see without judging. I got to see without saying, don't do this and do that, or trying to manage them because it was all about like, who's going to do what with my grandson because he was impossible at the time. And and I saw what Andrew was doing was keeping it going by wanting so much to be right. And that's the booby prize that we get from the ego. The ego is nothing more than a mirage in our mind. It's an idea. and what would we want more than peace? Like this is, I think at this point in my journey, I have really, on some level chosen peace. So why not live it now? Why not forget about who's right, who's wrong? And it was a very peaceful, there was a lot of harmony in this weekend. And this morning I was out at the park at 6 and just identifying with a brother tree, because the tree is your brother. Identifying with the brother, anything that's here is your brother or sister. You can use these words, but they're just words. Remember that every word is a symbol. So it's like we're asked to forgive, but can we forgive it when we're not ready? Well, we don't know we're not ready, right? We don't know when we're ready because we are being fed from a character thought. That's all it is. It's a thought. There's no entity at all in these dreams. We know that this, just like when I just mentioned the headless way shows you don't have a head. If you don't have a head, you don't have a body. So who are you really? you know, and it seems to me that what's going on in this mind is this desire, true desire for just wanting to live this. No more my opinion so I can fit in, because that's what an opinion is. You want to fit in. You want the opinion of the good guys, not the bad guys, because God knows we don't want to know we're bad. When in fact that is exactly what the ego believes, that we are bad, that we're all bad, not one but all. So I remember Regina had a thing called I Am Bad Belief. So the way she was teaching her students was to keep writing if they saw anything outside themselves that would trigger them. That was their I am bad belief. And that was a very profound teaching. But for me, I already knew, and I wouldn't do it because of the resistance of the ego saying, you're bad. And that is what the ego does. It tries to have you not go deeper with these words. John Mundy was on last night, and he was very clear on the fact that this book is a book home, and it's like, you know, you can waste time all you want, but you're going to get there. So why not do it now? And if you don't do these lessons, and if you don't listen and apply them, it's not a theology that's important. It's an application. Holy Spirit, just take this. Or the one I use is rest, accept, and trust. I heard that quite a bit from Regina for years. Now, I mean, the mind made up a story about every teacher I've ever had, but there was no teacher. These were all my thoughts. I had a lot of anger for one of the teachers, and I saw her show up in my dream, but I had a lucid dream because I have been lucid dreaming when I was sleeping. Lucid dreaming really is, what is it that Jesus is asking us to know we're dreaming. That's like the most important part, because whether or not we become liberated or not, it's not up to a single one, right? It's up to the whole sonship, and it doesn't matter because the liberation is the only thing that's here. That's all that's here is liberation. But to live it is to realize there's still fear in the mind, and that is the desire to get rid of it. So it's saying the first obstacle that peace must flow across is your desire to get rid of it, for it cannot extend unless you keep it. You are the center from which it radiates outward to call the others home. You are its home, its tranquil dwelling place from which it gently reaches out, but never leaving you. If you would make it homeless, how can it abide within the Son of God? If it would spread across whole creation, it must begin with you, and from you reach to everyone who calls and brings him rest by joining you. So he says here, Ken, most students would greet this first obstacle with incredulity, which I believe means like ambivalence, really. After all, no one is in his right mind would wish to be rid of peace. Like, we're like, well, of course, Ken, that's ridiculous. Why do you think we're doing this course? We are doing it because we want peace, but we're struggling. No, we're not struggling. Ego is. So the wrong-minded thought system of conflict remains our personal salvation. For individual existence depends on it. If we are truly desirous of peace, we must first address the part of the mind that rejects it. And that's where the Unhealed Mind book that I have of Ken's is very, very helpful. You know, the thing about Ken is, Toltec, I was listening to Don Miguel Luis. I just love him too. And he's pretty much about the fact that the word, what Toltec means, and that's the study of his process, is it means artist. We're all an artist painting the story of our life. Now, do we want it brown and black and dark or do we want the sunshine in everything? And that light is organic. It comes through us when there's that readiness. Now, I still have these like things in me, like, oh, I don't know if I can stay away from that television and not watch how much hate's out there. That's what I want, because if it's out there, I can push my guilt onto the TV. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. I don't know about anyone else, because Again, I can't know anyone else's mind. My mind is the only mind that I'm responsible for, which means that I don't have to save anyone anymore. Because the lesson is always of love, and that is acceptance. So the wrong minded thought system of conflict remains our personal salvation, for individual existence depends on it. If we are truly desirous of peace, we must first address the part of the mind that rejects it. That's it. What rejects it? It's this ridiculous thought system, which is absolutely ephemeral. We don't go anywhere when this thought falls away, when this thought image falls away. We go nowhere. And the life in heaven, our life continued all along in heaven, right? Even though the heaven here is a reflection, we can bet that we're still in the life that we chose to live with our Creator, because we are the creation. And when we come over to this ridiculous movie and believe it means something, I mean, I saw also observing how I must have taught my boys to take their life so serious. And that's the ego thought system. But I saw that this weekend in them. And of course, there's this desire as a special ego to want them to have this liberation. But that's not, how could I possibly know what their undoing is supposed to look like? How I've stayed in peace more than ever is just being honest, saying I don't know. I don't know, because anything I say I know is coming up from my filter, which has its likes and dislikes from the time I was a little girl or played a little girl. So he says, you really have to look at and take that responsibility. Yes, I don't want this peace because the guilt's so scary. And it is scary only to the ego, because the ego will go away. But to source, there's no fear in that. So once we look at the insane wish, if we are truly desirous of peace, we must first address the part of the mind that rejects it. Once we look at the insane wish with Jesus, sanity besides us, it will gently dissolve, allowing us to be back in our home, away from home, with all our brothers. And you want a reflection, just go inward. That's where it is. That's the memory of this magnificent omnipresence. Omniscient. It's all about light. I mean, that's the whole point. What I'm seeing with my projections, even the trees, the chairs, it's all coming from my mind. And anything I see is my consciousness. So sometimes training wheels really work, but it seemingly seems like time, seemingly. But it's not time. It's when the readiness is really saying, and I've had a lot of those things where it has said, enough is enough, stop. And these are prompt coming from spirit. But when I look at the fact that I couldn't be honest on how much I didn't want to look at my guilt, and that's the stories. Any story I believe in, I'm still believing my guilt. Any story. So, anyway, I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's not yet. Anybody have anything to share? Oh, I see Doug. Yeah, we're not struggling, and we want to sign in with a mind that is not us, you know? Okay, nobody wants to share. But, honestly, I think that the classroom now is showing in the collective how much responsibility needs to be taken now by this mind. I'm so excited. I go to a group on Wednesday nights with my husband, and it's called the Healing Patch, and he and I are training to be a grief facilitator. Now, do I join in with these people that are in the meeting who, a lot of them are drug induced deaths? Or do I learn how to love and listen to them and not have an opinion? And not have an opinion. How about that one? That's a shocker. Not have an opinion to a child that's crying that she lost one of her relatives. But how about letting her speak to me? And the motor does want to speak. It does. The ego is a motor. It's like this motor that just doesn't stop. So Oh, I have to say something now. Well, I probably can. This just came through me, so I'm going to say this to Dove if you can hear. Thursday, I don't think Lori's here, and Thursday we're driving to South Carolina, so I'll be in the car, so it might be hard for me to share. So I would think that Karen and Mickey would come in, and then there's Lynn too that would share. Did you hear that? I don't know if you walked away, but I'll let you know anyway. But
I heard that.
you heard it? Good. Okay,
Yeah.
as long as you heard it, yeah. Oh, you're here. Yeah, I was saying that Lori and me might not be there. I could turn you on Thursday morning because I'll be in the car and hopefully I can get Zoom. But we're leaving at 6 in the morning because we have to drive straight through, and that's going to be 8 hours. So I might just listen. That's all I can do because I noticed when we're driving on the highway, you can't really hear any. You can hear. I can hear you, but you couldn't hear me. I've tried that before. So yeah, so this won't be. So it's like I know Karen. I called her last week and I asked her. So I'm going to get a hold of her again and see. But bottom line is that everyone in this group is now ready to just let yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, McCallie is here. Yeah, God knows if she's off. I don't know if she's always off. That's why I didn't even think of her. But bottom line is, when is it going to be time? Like, what does Jesus say? Like, how long, Son of God? How long are you going to play with these ridiculous things in the the sandbox? The sandbox is ridiculous at this point. Grace is what's important. I often bring this up in my mind. Marianne Williamson was my first course teacher, and she had these online in those days. It was like 20 years ago, and she had like Miracle Matrix where you'd call in, and she, her process, her living atonement is coming through as the actress on the screen is very much supportive of freedom, so she does it through politics. Yet I think that it would confuse me. I don't know that it confuses her. I don't know her, but I know that if she's doing anything, she's playing her part, just like Donald Trump. We are all just playing our part. Oh, Lynn, there's your little hand. Go ahead, talk.
All right. Thank you. So this is really nice, Sharon. And we still haven't figured out what book we're going to read now, because we finished our book last week, remember? But I did want to, um, now that we've started doing a course of love, and I've been really getting involved in the more that the, it's a different kind of teaching,
Well,
but
explain that because I have it. I have it on Audible. Here's Karen. Karen, wait, before we go on, Karen, this Thursday, I won't be able to come. I'll be in the car. I'm going to listen to you guys, but I can't talk when I'm on the highway because I'm traveling. But I want to say this. I would love to start from the beginning with you, Lynn, and do the course of love too on this particular teaching. And this is what I saw in by reading it. It's all about staying in the heart. That's really what it's saying, basically. Isn't that true, Lynn? It's
um,
all about.
yes, and it's just a different, yeah. A course of love. I finally got exactly what it is because I bought into the Age of the Heart and some of the other teachings that have been coming up, realizing that yeah, there's more here. Now we have specific instructions for how to move on, whereas
Right.
A Course in Miracles, basically the whole point of A Course in Miracles was to have us look at our hidden thoughts, see the workings of the ego. It was all about finding out about yourself. Now is time to go on. Now is the time to step forward into the world as a teacher, as a whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what this course of love is about, is how to move on. But I wanted to read this. This is from chapter 5 of A Course of Love, that kind of hits exactly on what you're just talking about here. Is, why is it that I'm not doing this? Because he says, um, and I do believe that it was the Christ mind that spoke through her on this. Your desire to be separate is the most insane desire of which you have conceived. Over all your longing for union, oh, there's a ringy sound. I don't know what that is. Okay. Out of all your longing, this is crazy. Over all your longing for union, you place this desire to be separate and alone. Your entire resistance to God is based on this. You think you have chosen to be separate from God so that you can make it on your own. And while you long to return to God and the heaven that is your home, you do not want to admit that you cannot get there on your own. You thus have made of life a test, believing that you can pass or fail through your own effort. Isn't that exactly what we've been doing? Yet the more you struggle to do so on your own, the more you realize the futility of your efforts, even though you do not want to admit that your efforts are futile. You cling to effort as if it is the way to God, not wanting to believe all effort is in vain or that a simple solution exists. A simple solution within your world, a solution that requires no exertion on your part, is seen to be of little value. The individual, you reason, is made through all this effort and struggle, and without it would not be. In this you are correct, for as you make of yourself an individual, you deny yourself your union with all others. All your efforts to be an individual are concentrated on the life of your body. Your concentration on the life of your body is meant to keep your body separate. Overcoming is your catchphrase here as you struggle to overcome all the adversity and obstacles that would keep you from having what you think you want to have. This is your definition of life. And while it remains, it defines the life you see as real. So, what really he's saying here, I don't want to go on with this, is that I define my being on how far I can stretch it. The reason that I think we even had this tiny mad idea was this idea that I could be more, have more, get more, and not realizing that if I took more, then you would have less, or whatever the situation is. But the whole idea is to overcome, to become the best I can be, to become the great teacher that I want to be, or whatever. And the point is, there's nothing to overcome, because this is all a game that it's a circular game where I say I want the peace of God, but I want to worry about the world. I want the peace of God, and as long as there's a but, or even an and or an or and an if, then I'm right in the same place where I'm attempting in all ways to keep myself separate from God and saying it's because I want to be closer to God. And yeah, the authority problem is exactly what it is. So anyway, that I just wanted to um, point that out, that the dichotomy between what I say I want and the experience that I call into my life is huge. And that's another thing. We're talking about manifesting um, yesterday. We can't really we already manifested. This is it. Well, what you see is what you get. It's a manifestation that we made, but it's the finding the uh, the truth and the reality behind all these things that is really what we're here for. Not to make a better world. And that's when you said about people going into concentration camp. We'd all be in a lot better places if we just concentrated more. But we're so full of, I think that not only is the catchword ADHD or autism or all these things that we're suddenly discovering are wrong with us, it's just another ploy. It's another thing to say, yep, I'm real, all right. And that's the reason I'm doing this. I'm real, all right. That's the reason I have to struggle and strive. And Jesus tells us in the Course of Miracles, striving is the opposite of what you want to do. Stop the
We
striving.
want to allow it all, welcome it all, because it's all us.
Exactly. So that's really all I had to say.
Yeah, I think that at 10:30, maybe we could do a course in love. I don't know if other people are as into it, and I think we should check. Karen's talking. Okay, go ahead, Karen. Karen, your hand's up.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you, Lynn. Um, yeah, what you were reading kind of reminded me of today's lesson. God is my father, and he loves his son. So we're here to remember the truth of what we are. And this morning I was led to chapter 11 in section 1, the uh, gifts of fatherhood. And in that section, he says, you must ask what God's will is in everything because it is yours. You do not know what it is, but the Holy Spirit remembers it for you. Ask him therefore what God's will is for you, and he will tell you yours. It cannot be too often repeated that you do not know. Whenever the Holy Spirit Whenever what the Holy Spirit tells you appears to be coercive, it is only because you have not recognized your will. And he says that God's will is that you are his son. God's will is that you are his son. So our will is to remember the truth of what we are. And that is what today's lesson is reminding us of, that we are God's son. And we are perfect, whole, and complete. And we are not separate from God or from our brother. And I love what he says in this lesson. He says, my true identity is so secure, so lofty, sinless, glorious, and great, holy, beneficent, and free from guilt. So we are all perfect, innocent, complete. And I love what Sharon shared from What is Sin? How long, O Holy Son of God, how long will you play the game of sin? How long will you play the game of separation? That you are separate, that you are this person, that you are this body. I love it. You guys reminded me of that. And yeah, I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. You know what I feel like? When we have these directives, there has to, like I've said this a lot, there's a readiness in this mind now to really commit to 100% looking at the fact that I'm wasting whatever time I have left here on a story that doesn't matter because I want this character's will rather than God's will. So what I was reading, Karen, before you came in was the first obstacle, because I think one of the most important processes in this course is this chapter. When he's talking about these obstacles, they are really in this mind. Like the mind, when I say in the mind, I mean the whole mind, the whole mind. We don't see a lot of our fears because they're unconscious. So now I'm starting to see how ridiculous the stories that are floating up in me mean. They're actually meaningless. And it's only fear that's keeping me from saying, I'm done. Right? Because no, let me just see. Is he going to go to jail? You see, I'm in jail. And that's the ridiculous part of it. Anyway, Dub and share.
Okay, thanks. By the way, Sharon, your sharing this past hour was superb, truly. I was listening from Pal Talk. I can tell you it was great. I wanted to ask Karen and Mikhail, this Thursday, neither Sharon nor Lori can make it for Thankful Thursday. Can either or both of you make it for this Thursday? Love to start off the morning, 8:30 in the morning with you. And any thoughts, Karen or Mikhail? I'm not sure Mikhail is here.
No, I'm here. I'm here, Doug.
Oh, okay.
This Thursday at 8:30.
Yeah.
Yes, I can be there.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's 8:30 Eastern time.
At 8:30 Eastern time. Yeah, it's the same time that Sharon started today.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
it's 9:30.
I'm sorry. You're right. Sharon started at 9:30. That's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
I'm going to listen. I'll be on my phone, but I don't want to be like having you have a hard time with me sharing. But it is important now. At this point, at least for me, is to step up my game here, because I'm taking a drug every time I think that this is real. That's how I see it. But it's not a drug of love; it's the drug of hate, pure hate. That's what I see when I was in my wrong mind yesterday, in and out, in and out. And I stopped and I said, Spirit, just take this. This is bullshit. I mean, it's ridiculous how I'm loving how much judgment I have on everything and believing it. It's just ridiculous. So,
Actually hilarious when you think about it. Oh, go ahead, Dove. I'm sorry.
well, yeah, I don't want to say stupidity, but at this point, I can say it to I'm just going to say what Jesus says. How long are you going to wait for this ridiculous show to stop?
Okay. I just want to mention Sharon in her last remarks was talking about God's will for us. So it's very clear in lesson 101 and 102, even 103, God's will is happiness. We actually, or we mean the ego, likes to worry. Now, worry strangles. Worry actually comes from the English word wrangle, which means to strangle, and we're strangling spirit, who says, "Don't worry," and the ego thinks it can control the future. The ego wants to control the future. That's why it worries. Can you hear that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a habit. It's a habit. It's
Yeah.
a skill that I think, well, if I'm not worried about my kids, like for instance, my younger son was over too this weekend, and he goes, Mom, I'd be like you if my child went through what I did. I just could feel their pain. This is how he thinks I love him. You see the message that they get. I love you because I suffer with you. And that is really what this teaching of the ego is. It's like, let's all be in pain. Let's all hate each other and be in pain. It's ridiculous. And I can make up 100 excuses, but I'm done with the worry. I just sit in the rest, accept, and trust. That is resting in God, accepting that I don't know anything, and accepting that peace is my goal, and then trusting that the part of me that is real doesn't. It's my guiding. It's my comforter. It's everything. So yeah, that's all. But Lynn, if you want to do, I don't know if
Just real quick. Here, let us go ahead and close out this YouTube.
Okay.
And thank you all for coming and hanging out with us. And we're just having fun here. And everybody is welcome to join us. Please click the subscribe button, and you'll find out whenever we're on. You can find on the YouTube page here, you can find the links to join us here. So you can join us during these anytime you want to. Anyway.